Hello and welcome, it's Alex Wise here, and today I'm going to show you how I edited this image taken at Marriners Falls in Victoria, Australia. So apologies, I am a bit nasally. As you can probably tell, I do have a cold, which I picked up from my twin boys. Something which I'm sure any parents out there with young children can relate to. When you get sick from your kids, it's not fun. But fortunately though, I don't have coronavirus, as I received my results this morning. Just so enough self-pity about me. But let's look at this image. I'm just going to turn off highlight clipping. I'll come back to that in a second. With this image, it's a 1 second exposure using a tripod, obviously to stabilize the shot. Generally for these types of images, I like to shoot in overcast scenes, as I find you get much more neutral light in your scene. I didn't really have much choice this day, as the light came out just as we were shooting and we didn't have much time to spend at the location, so I sort of had to work with what I've got. Fortunately though, the light coming out really worked in my favour though, I think, where I've got some really beautiful light rays coming through. What's not great though, that you can probably see here, is my friend Rob standing in the frame. I'm not great at clone stamping, so this will be fun. I might even have to speed up the footage, as that'll be a bit boring, no doubt. And then another person standing here to the right of frame. So down to the editing, I'm just going to make a couple of tweaks in Lightroom before I open up Photoshop. The first one is changing the color profile to landscape, which will be pretty subtle, but does some nice things to the greens. I'd really recommend playing with this when you're editing a waterfall image yourself. Next one is I'm just going to straighten the image slightly and lower the, before I do actually, I'm just going to turn on highlight clipping. So basically with this, it shows you where your highlights are blown out by indicating red in the scene. So if I pump up the highlights, you'll see that it shows where my highlights are blown out. So I'm just going to lower this until I get normal highlights. And I'm also just going to decrease the exposure ever slightly. Cool. Just thinking what else. That's probably it for Lightroom. So we shall go edit in Adobe Photoshop. Cool. So I'm just going to duplicate this layer and begin clone stamping roll out. This isn't going to be great viewing. Apologies all. But I'll try my best to not make it too boring. I hope everyone's doing okay with coronavirus, wherever they're watching this video. It has been very crazy times, but it's also a good opportunity to do some learning, which I've been also watching some really awesome videos from Ted Gore and others. Would really recommend if you can get your hands on them. Makes my editing look basic and pretty average, but yeah, well worth their money. I don't know if I said, but clone stamping isn't my forte. What's not helped here is the fact that he's standing right in a light ray, so it makes it really tricky. And you'll probably see here, and you're probably wondering, what are you doing? I've overlapping the log, and the reason being is I'll fix this up with a layer mask. I'm also trying to do this quite quickly, as I appreciate this is probably about as exciting as watching paint dry. But look, if you have any feedback around how I can be better at clone stamping, I'm all ears, as this is embarrassing. What's also key here is, and I'm doing a terrible job, is I need to make sure that it's quite straight as I'm doing this. Okay. Because, yeah, look, you see here, oops, if you see, like, that's really nice and straight. It's all straight. And then look at my line. It's quite jaggedy. So I'm just going to do a little bit more. Yeah, cool. Okay, now I'm going to create a layer mask. Set the paintbrush tool. Sorry. Quick gulp of water. So I'm just going to use the paintbrush tool and paint over the log. This will be good way of just trying to blend it in a bit more naturally. That's probably just needs a bit more refinement down there. Yeah, not just refinement, but it goes to grey too much. So I'm just going to quickly try out a bit more gap in it. Didn't do that. Yeah, cool. That's a bit better. It's not perfect, but look, I think for the purpose of this video, it's enough. Just before and after. Yeah, look, that'll do. To be honest, actually no, hang on, sorry. It's better. I just want to paint a little bit more here. Oops, it might help if I set it to black. That's better. Look, it's not perfect, but I think for the purpose of this video, it's enough. What next? Now, this guy here. I believe that's Craig Richards, actually. A great photographer based in Warrnambool, Victoria. Once again, need to paint a little bit back in. Cool. Okay, just while I'm cleaning the scene, I don't love this green here, as my 1 second long exposure was just slightly too long, and as a result, it's blurred the foliage as it's been moving in the wind. It's not the most sharpest shot, but at the end of the day, I'll probably only end up putting this on Instagram, so it's not the end of the world. Actually, you know what I sometimes like doing, and it's super lazy, is just using the spot healing brush tool and letting Photoshop try to work it out for me. Yeah, you know what, that's not too bad. It's a start. I'm just going to use the clone stamp tool to paint in some of this detail. Just making a point here, if this was actually an edit that I was printing, I'd be spending a lot more time doing this, but look, I think for the purpose of the gram, I don't think it matters too much. I doubt someone will be zooming in on this detail. Okie dokie. Cool. Just before and after that. Yeah, easy. What I also want to do now quickly is pull out some of these raindrops that were on my lens. Generally the spot healing brush tool is quite good here, so I'm just going to paint over the droplets. Okay, far out, there's water droplets everywhere. No, that looks terrible. I'll come back to that. I'll just do this bit down here. Cool. Just fixing this up. Okay, actually, that's probably the last one up here. Whoa, blinded by the light, sorry. Just going to quickly remove this. Actually, what's my old mate spot healing brush tool do when I do this? Oh, it's actually not too bad. Come back to that. Look, that'll do. It's not perfect. As you can see, I'm just playing around with the before and after there. But it'll do for the purpose of this video. I'm just going to flatten that as I'm quite happy with that. Okie dokie. So what I'm going to do next is just a bit of a quick introduction. I use TK Actions quite a bit for my edits. It allows me to make luminosity masks, where I can select various parts of the image. Starting with this one, I'm going to select the shadows and outer levels. Just try to increase the shadows a bit. Being careful though, because I have got water droplets on my lens, and by pumping the shadows more, it just exposes that more. Like up here. Cool. And now playing with the highlights. What am I doing here? So I've just increased the highlights of the image, but I want to make it quite selective where it's only applying to this section of the image. So I'm using the layer mask. I'm going to paint over the sky a bit just to bring that back, as I don't want this part increased. I only want this area here. Cool. What I also wouldn't mind just trying quickly is what it looks like if I warm up those light rays coming through. Or even if I cool it. Nah, pass. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with this area up here. Just try and bring it back a bit. I don't think I can actually. But what I can do is, oops. Just going to flatten this image for a second. What I'm doing now, I'm just going to play around with the dehaze tool. Sometimes I find this can add some atmosphere to the image, so I'm using the camera raw filter. And I'm going to use the graduated filter. And that needs to be reset as it's using previously used settings. So firstly, just going to drag down the days. Just procrastinating hard today. I blame the cold. just warming it a bit. What I'm trying to do here is, I guess, give the sense that it was a beautiful warm light shining through, which it kind of was, but I'm not lying, I promise. Cool. As you can see there, the dehaze tool, don't know what I was saying, dehaze tool allows me just to add some atmosphere to the top half of the frame. Would recommend playing with that. I'm just going to flatten that. Okay, what else do I want to do to this image? I'm just going to do some light painting, colour dodging, by using sampling the greens here and lowering my opacity, just painting over this area a bit. In case you're wondering what I'm doing here, so basically I'm using a dark green and I'm basically burning the scene with that darker colour. So I'm darkening as I go, but with a slight green tinge to the colour. Cool. Next thing I want to do is try cut back the reds in the scene a bit. I don't love the reds. Yes, I prefer more of a nice green palette. So let's do that differently. Just change it to master and decrease saturation. Yep. And just using a layer mask here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to paint over all the red parts of the scene just to make them look a bit more subdued. Look, you don't have to do this. This is just something that I do. Some people might like the reds. I personally don't. Cool. It's just taking the focus off them a little bit. Super subtle kind of stuff though. Okay. Okay. So next what I'm probably going to look to do is just change the colour of the waterfall water slightly. I'm not liking too much how blue the water looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a play first with changing the saturation of it a little bit and see if that does what I'm after by using the selective saturation. Just going to drop the saturation on it a bit. It's better. Cool. So I'm just going to localize that change just to the waterfall area. So I'm just using my layer mask to paint in around the water. Make it a bit bit bigger. That'll do. Next, what I want to do also is I'm just going to create a soft light layer filling with 50% grey. The reason I'm doing this is I'm actually going to paint with the colour white, which is effectively dodging, over the tree. So I just want to bring out the shadows here a little bit. Cool. I'm just going to play with the opacity just a little bit. Okay, that's done. And now I just want to add an autumn mask. So I'm going to select the lights. And I'm going to use the Smart Autumn. Just taking its time. Generally what I'll do though, I set this to roughly the megapixel of the camera in the next field, which is the Gaussian blur, so we get 45. Okay, obviously that's way too much for what we want here, right? So I'm adding a layer mask, and generally what I like to do here, so I generally just lower it down to 0 and slowly introduce it to a level that I'm happy with. I reckon that's it. I'm not a massive fan of what it's done to the whole image, especially around the foliage. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to paint it out of this area here, keep a little bit of up here, obviously keeping it in this area here as I quite like what it's done to the rays and also the water, and then painting it out of here too. So let's look to get started. Just increase my opacity a bit. Painting it out of here too. The reason being is I want this area to look nice and sharp still, but liking the nice autumn effect on the water and the sun rays. Cool. I'm pretty happy with that now. That looks nice. Okie dokie. Last thing I think I'll look to do is just have a slight play around with the saturation in the image. You could definitely do it with a little bit of a nudge. Just have to be really careful though, as probably my biggest weakness when it comes to post-processing waterfalls is controlling the greens. I have a habit of probably overcooking them a bit. So I'm trying to, I guess, take a bit more of a, just to take it quite easy when I'm processing it and not overdoing the saturation of the greens in particular. So I'm just going to increase the saturation to the overall scene for a sec. Just seeing what it does first. Yeah, see, look how fluoro those greens have gone. Yuck. Just going to dial that back a bit. Cool. Last thing I want to do, I just want to create a burn layer. So what I'm going to use is soft light, 50% grey again. This time around, just going to have it set to black, which is effectively burning. Just lower my opacity a bit. And what I'm doing, I'm just going to paint over this area here. It's just a bit too bright. It's very subtle, but maybe that area too, actually. Cool. Last thing I'm going to do is also just creating a soft light layer mask again. But this time around, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and make these light rays a little bit more pronounced. So I'm using the brush just to paint over. Yep. No. Cool. Very subtle. And then you have it. I'm pretty happy with how that image is looking now. Look, there's probably things that I'd do a little bit more differently if I had more time. In particular, I'd really look to clone stamp out some of the droplets on the lens that appear in the shadows on the log up here. And I'm pretty sure there's some also on the log down here. Obviously, it's pretty boring watching me do that, to be honest. I'll save you the boredom. But hopefully, look, that gives you a bit of a sense around how I would have processed that image. I'm just going to quickly show you the original image. So the original image was this. So obviously the person's now taken out of the photo. The sun rays are a bit more pronounced. And yeah, look, it's a pretty basic edit. I'm sure some people watching this would probably do a lot more, which I'd love to hear what you would do if it was your image. But yeah, look, the priority really was about taking people out of the image and really having a play with those light rays coming down. I hope this video was interesting for you. Apologies, it's a bit longer than some of the other videos that I've done in the past. But like all videos, I'm sure there's someone out there that's probably picked up something from this video. As always, if you have any questions or feedback around what you've seen today, feel free to drop a comment. Always love hearing what people have to say. If I don't know the answer, I'm sure I can ask even friends and find out for you if I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day.